1, 2, 3. Hello. Just a small test for now. We will begin in 2 minutes. Alright, so that is the microphone. Hello. And let's go to the live scene and hello everyone and welcome to our little live session today. And I have prepared again a lot of things that I want to do with you together. And you maybe remember the last stream where we talked a little bit about AI and search methodologies and so on and so forth. And you maybe also remember our little course where we tried with Python to implement a search pattern. And my try today, or what I want to do today, is actually to transform this Python solvable way for a maze or something into Flutter. And my idea was that we maybe create a maze at the end with a start and an end point, and we want to find the best solution, and maybe that we can change between the different search patterns that exist, so that we can maybe select in a drop down something like, okay, I want to use a star, or I want to use deep first search or breadth first search as we need that, and then we just use it in order to implement it in our Flutter application. So the benefit would be that we learn something from the AI technologies, where we do the CS50 course, if you remember, that is completely for free, that you can find from @X at the moment. And bring that whole thing into our Dart section and work a little bit with Flutter so that we can see that this AI programming also works in Dart. I hope at least. So let's see if we can recreate this maze tool. So for the first thing that I want to do is I want to open up one of the projects that we had the last time, and this will be the degrees one. And the reason for that is the degrees one contains the different searches. In this case, it only contained the DFS and BFS, but I think most of them will work the same way. So we can start with one of them and let's see how far we come in the next 2 hours. Oh, so, okay. So what it is it takes the CSV files from the searches. And I don't know if the sound of the music is too loud compared to my language, so I make that a little bit smaller. All right. And the idea is now that I think there was also a solution from the CS50 course. So what I want to do is go to this CS50 from Harvard, is it? From the University of Harvard. So if you are interested there, and let me check where it is. I think it was edX. And here we will find the next or latest course, where I already finished the project, but what I'm searching is the source code from this, because this source code contains a little bit more information on how the maze is working. And as I said already, this is a Python project here, so we can just get that here in our PyCharm. And what we see is we have a node again, we can create the same thing in Dart, we have the stack frontier, the queue frontier, and this class of maze. And what they did is they identified this maze by getting these text files. And as you see, this is not really pretty. As far as I know, these hashtags are always a wall. This A point is one point that we want to reach, and the B point is also a point that we want to reach. So, so is anyone there? Is someone in the chat? So. Exactly. So this would be the idea, that we recreate these mazes, and as you see, they're getting more and more complex. Then you have other ideas, and last but not least, we have even something with multiple ways and paths, so where maybe the path that we find is not optimal. Okay, but before we go too deep inside, the first goal would be to have a basic UI, I guess, where we have these walls and so on separated, and something that can start with to explore the different parts here. And I'm really curious how they have implemented this maze at the moment. This is just a file. It opens the file, it starts to read it. If content contains A, contents count A is unequal to 1. There have to be a start point, there have to be an end point. So you can even create your own mazes in this text file here. Hey Adashat, whoa, what a name. Nice to see you. Okay, then we have content split line, we have the height, we have the width of the maze, and then they calculate and get the different walls. Okay. And self solution is none, and then they start to print, they have neighbors. They have to solve the whole thing. Okay. So yeah, let's see if we can recreate in Flutter such a maze. I'm really curious. So what I will start is a Flutter application. I will call it maze search AI. So, and let's see, a search application or CS50 search for Flutter and Dart. All right, so we call that just maze. I think that's enough, and start. And what I will do is I'll work on the plate. So that will mean that I will create the most things in a macOS. So I will work off Flutter master. Hopefully everything works there correctly. But what that means is that we will use the first 15 minutes or so by upgrading, I guess, because let's see if we have here Flutter master, and now I guess I have to upgrade, and this is always a little bit of pain. But in the meantime, I can already set up the FVM part here so that we get, it could be that the stream is getting a bit laggy now, I'm sorry for that. Will be done in a second, promise. So let's see if I can copy the full path here. Copy absolute path. And we head over to our Flutter configuration here. And we'll replace that so that we use now this SDK. The Flutter installation is incomplete. Yeah, I know, it's still running in the background. So in the meantime, I drink coffee, and if you have any questions so far, please let me know. I try to answer them as good as possible. From the last live stream where I talked like 4 hours in a row, the first time that I felt my gorge getting a little bit sore. So today I promised myself to drink way more. So I prepared a water and I prepared a coffee, and in the worst case I will also leave the room for a second and receive my next cup of water. So building the Flutter tools, I guess you all know that. If you don't know how these FVM stuff works, what happens here is if we use here the Flutter version manager, and we use different versions, and we have different versions installed. So you can switch easier between stable and master channel and download in a precautious way the master or stable version. And then you can set up for each project that you have a specific version, so that you can say, okay, in this project I work on a stable channel because it's our real application, but on another one I just want to try out a little bit and be funky in the master branch, and so on and so forth. So this brings you a bit more flexibility. The most important part that we have to do is getting that stuff into git ignore, because what else happens is, or could happen, is that this FVM started to get into GitHub push, and we don't really want that. Another thing that I don't know if the remotes are set up for these, but we are currently not in a Git project, so that should be fine. So just a second. I hope Xcode is at least updated, or else I'm again very bad prepared. No, that looks good. So at least something is prepared here. In the meantime, I can start already to clean up the example application that we have here by just removing all these kinds of stuff we don't need. And then, whoops, let's get rid of this part here and clean up. So, and if you think I'm absolutely professional in AI or in search terms, no, I'm absolutely not. I started the course of CS50, I guess 1 week ago. So don't be too sad if I don't know anything or if I have to Google it myself. This is just part of the journey in my case. Good. So download, 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 go, go, go. In the meantime, what I can try to do is already create some files. For example, what we could use is that we use the linting package. Linting is just giving us a bit more knowledge about if our code is working correctly. I'm preparing currently a video for that, which will be on my YouTube channel in the next couple of days, hopefully. So I guess next week, Thursday is the plan at the moment. Get rid of them here. Go. Yeah, perfect. Good. So in the meantime, everything has updated. So we just run FVM Flutter Doctor just to see if everything works now correctly. And here we are ready. And the dev dependency, we can add lint. That looks perfect. So, and because we want to work on a Mac OS system, we have to FVM Flutter create again the folders, because as you see, there is no Mac folder, for example. So we need to recreate the project. So as you see, we get a lot of new files. And if I click here a little bit around, I think that should update the whole thing sooner or later. All done in your application, Flutter run, yep. iOS, but where is reveal in Finder, Maze Search AI, and here's the folder, but it's not updated yet. Ah, here it goes. Good. So and with that, we have now the possibility to upgrade here. But you see in Android Studio, it unfortunately did not upgrade it yet. Integration test is also there directly. Interesting. Okay. Good. But what that means is I will quickly restart the Android Studio and get back. That is just because he didn't understand right away that he uses a new version of Flutter for the devices, so that you could also execute it from the CMD, but did I really set it up correctly? Let's see. No. Okay, so FVM, take the real path, copy absolute path. Let's try again. Apply. This is now correct. This FVM should be ignored. Is that correct? Where's my git ignore? Here. And we can maybe mark this one as excluded. All right, and the .idea we also will have in our git. Fair enough. I think I will not use the integration tests today, so I remove that. And now, usually that should work now for the Android Studio, so I'm really curious why it doesn't work as I expect. Still no devices, that's weird. We are on the master channel, okay. FVM Flutter devices. Okay, he understands it here locally, but he don't get it from, now it works. Okay, it just needed some time, that's perfect. So we can start up our application finally. Oh, we had 2 times the bitrate drop. Really sad. I really still have to upgrade my streaming stuff here. It seems that this still leads to problems. Alright, but what we can see is now we have this beautiful Maze AI, we have a counter app and so on and so forth. And my goal is now to somehow visualize here a maze. And that's getting very interesting because I have never done something like that. So we will try to get there some knowledge. So this will be changed to AI, CS50 training, search in Maze. We have the homepage title will be, the question is, do we need that stuff? I think we can remove that. Inside of the homepage, I think we take the whole part here from homepage till the bottom. Here, and we will just use that in an own file where I give the different files. I think this is packages now, what we call views. That was of course directly wrong, so views, here we go. Hey, thank you for following. And inside of the views, we now create our first widget, which is the homepage widget. So our home view.dart, put all the stuff inside. We will rename this thing here to the home view up and import all the necessary libraries. I will just take material for now and let's see what we else need. No errors found, that's beautiful. And of course the main.dart has to import this new view, so home view, get that inside. And it's crashing because probably we have somewhere an text that shouldn't be null. That is absolutely correct at this place. So we can see we have here a little problem. And I guess we won't have a state yet. So we will remove that. We don't need an increment counter. This widget title can be gone. This is just text. We don't need this counter here. We don't need this text here. Remove this. Getting away with the floating button. Actually, we get away with nearly everything. So, and we need no state because we don't have a state. Up and go here. This is a stateless widget. Fantastic. So, was the complicated or most complicated way to delete all this stuff? Actually, it would be easier to just recreate a new one. But what we can see is we have already our app bar up here and we have some space below. So how do we get our maze inside? Well, what is a maze actually? At the end, a maze could be reflected by an array, right? So we could have a list of, I don't know, a list of strings at the end if we want. So if I just apply that, that would look like something like this. So maze. And actually, I think it would be a list of lists of string. So if I'm doing this, I understand that at the moment. So I just want to draw a picture for everyone. So, and in this maze, we will have a two-dimensional array, right? So that means here inside we have now the row. So this is the row of the maze, and this contains the whole maze. So we have here, for example, a wall, another wall, and another wall. And then we have maybe our finish line. And inside of that, we have another maze or another row up with the same things where we maybe don't have anything like that, just have empty spaces. And yeah, or maybe we can create here an X for the space, give here an X, and get the last line gun where we have maybe here the starting point, or let's start on the bottom left. So we have here the starting point, we can look here and here, go here, and so on and so forth, and then show B. But of course we have to somehow visualize that. So if you remember, we had in the Python part, we have these parts, and they look nearly the same. So they said for each wall, it is not X, it is, I don't know how you call that, hashtag, of course. So this will be search and replace. We can use X will be hashtags and go away up, perfect. And then we would have free spaces. So that would be something like this. Just to recreate the CS50 course part. And as you see now, this looks now already very close to something like this. So we have already some representation for a maze. The question is now, how can we allow our users to create such a list for us? That would be interesting. And the best idea that I would have is that we give the opportunity to have here, maybe at the beginning, just a 9 times 9 cell grid that we allow the users to click on. And for each click, we change the color. And so he can create its own walls. And then maybe have the possibility for each click, you have a starting point and end point, and after that we have the possibility to set the walls as we want. So we could create the search terms for any maze, not just for the maze that we predefine somewhere. Okay, so yeah, how big is the smallest maze here? I think it's also not that large. So we can see this has now 7 chars, so it is 7 times 6, right? Is that correct? 6 to 8. Yeah, something like that, 6 to 8. I think if we make it like a square, it is a bit easier to understand. So let's see how we can implement something like that. To create a grid, how would we create a grid somehow? Is there a widget for that? Do we have already some kind of grid? Grid tile, grid view, grid paper. Grid view sounds already very promising. Let me just check in the documentation. So what I will do is get the grid view. Here it is. We have a grid delegate. We will see in a second what that is. And the grid view is a box scroll view. Okay, blah, 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 some text. Go. So a grid view seems to be scrollable. Maybe not perfect for our use case, but what we can do is we could maybe prevent it from scrolling. So let's see what the grid view tutorial says to us in Flutter. Here we go. A scrollable 2D array of widgets. The main axis direction of the grid is the direction in which it scrolls. Okay. Grid view prevents scrolling. Okay, so there is already an issue open, so I'm not the only one who's searching for something like that. Why do you want to disable scrolling on a grid view? Parents, that is not I was nested scroll view. I created widget list, but it's take long process. Can the issue be closed or open question? Is to wrap the grid view in an ignore pointer widget. I think we cannot do that, because if we would ignore the pointer widgets, not necessarily good. If you want to disable scrolling, you can use physics new never scroll physics. Oh, perfect. So there is an option to ignore the scrolling. So if we use this grid view, I guess that we have here some options, and one of them is physics, and that would be never scrollable scroll physics. So get rid of that. We don't have a grid delegate yet, so not sure how this works. So I would suggest that we first of all give him a like. Oh, I did already. And the second part is to understand how we use this grid actually. So we have a list view builder, okay, and inside of this list view builder we create list tiles. Are we right here? Sliver delegate, okay, grid view dot count, main axis spacing 1010, cross axis count 2. Nice, okay, so we can with that we could provide something like, if we say, what do we have here? Builder, extend and count. Okay, and the count delivers us the possibility to add children, of course, that we can use. The delegate we don't need yet. And I think the other thing is the count. So cross-axis count. So with that we decide how many rows we actually have. So if we say we have 8 to 8, we can start with a cross-axis count of 8. And inside of these children we will have now as many children as we want, right? So in our case we would have I guess a cell widget. And what is this cell widget at the end? It's just a container, right? A container with a specific height and width. Height of 10, I guess, or let's start with 10 and a width of 10. It could be even less, it could be just a sized box, right? And maybe some color. Let's start with the white color and a border of black. And because it have a border, we need a decoration, box decoration, which gets then a border, which is a box border. Can we just use border itself? I guess that should work. Border side? No, I want to specific border side. Is that style, border style and width? Okay, let's try this, because I want to give all the sides of the border the same thing. So the color would be colors dot black. Just start with that. My bitrate is really unstable. I don't know what that is. I'm really sorry about that. It could be that the stream is always breaking for you guys. I see it for me, it works pretty well, but I'm not sure how this turns out for you guys. Maybe I have to take a look. Sorry for that. No, it's stable now. Huh, difficult to say. Okay, anyway, I have to keep an eye on that, and maybe in the future I have to fix there something. Maybe it's just the internet connection or something. Cool. And what I will not change anything else if not necessarily. Or is he unhappy? It's good. Okay. If it's good for you, I'm very happy with that. So the border side seems not to work. So do we really have to pass all that stuff in, or border, box border? Box border is abstract. Am I that weird now? What was the border here? Was it just border? Border.all. Here we go. Fantastic. So this is giving already some kind of border. So let's have a look. Yeah, so this starts on the top left at the moment. So because we don't have any margins, that's all right for now. Thank you so much. That was nearly perfect timing. And I give that now a padding quickly, just to move it a little bit inside. So, and what we see is now we have a cell. Will it be enough space to create 8 to 8? What we will do is now, if we want to have all these cells with 8 times 8, let me think, that would be, let's reduce that to 5. I think that's still enough to create or to make a maze visible. That should be fine. It should be even smaller, I guess, right? So big. Does it not hot reload correctly? Let me quickly destroy that app and restart. But what I will do in the meantime is I create quickly a for loop with the variable of I, which is, I don't know, what 8 times 8 is 64 at the moment. We will have to create that as long as I is not, no, wait, this starts at 0 and I is lower than 46. And last but not least, we increase that, and we want to create a lot of containers until then. So, hot reload. Okay, he don't want to. As long as I is smaller, of course. What do I do here? So fantastic. And with that, we create now 46 containers of this with the border. Aha, looks like already like a grid. And as you see, it's also kind of responsive because it uses especially the sizes. So it could be that we can remove this here and we still get the same thing. Yeah. The only issue that we currently have is that they have double borders on top and on bottom. We could change that for all of them, but to make a minimal valuable product today, and this is what I'm starting with, is we are fine with that. Okay, but now we want to change the colors, right? So if I click on that, it should change the colors. And we have this grid, we have the possibility to change that. What would be the best option to change this maze behavior? So we need a starting point, an ending point, we need to create walls, and we need to create somehow empty spaces. So my easiest idea that I'm coming up at the moment with would be like a list on top with different icons where I can click an A, I can put there an A down, I can click a B, I can click a B down here, and yeah, that I can then give like walls and this getting walls. And we need to inform the user somehow what is at the end. So that means that white, for example, is an empty space where our optimal path can be searched in, and black, or I don't know which color, could be our walls. We could even use textures for that actually. Okay, but before we play too much around, I think it makes sense if we just give a little on top of it, like a little possibility to add different things. So let's put that in a column. Oh, that was a mistake, of course, because the grid itself is actually, or should be, scrollable usually. And because this is not possible, we have to do something else, I guess. Let me quickly think. What could we do? Yeah, I have an idea. What we can do is wrapping this padding in a column and then give this an expanded. Yes, because the expanded in that case will win as much space as possible. So if we have a lot of space, it will take as much as it needs. And on top of it, we can now work with our with our row of different items. So we have here children, and if I comma separate that stuff, it should be very happy. And what we can do is give that a specific height, probably. No, okay. So this row has to be wrapped inside of a size box. So, and this size box receives a height, a specific one, like 50. And with that, we push everything down. Okay, and here inside we have actually 4 icons, I guess. So I will just use icon button in that case because we want to press that at the end. So let's see what icons we can use for that. So icons dot question, do we have a wall? Wallet, membership, I don't know, I just take any of them right now. So membership is our wall. And if we press, we want to actually create print, activate, sorry, activate wall. Okay, the next button would be like, I don't know, icons dot starting point. So start, do we have something not started? Play maybe, the play arrow, fair enough. So, and the end is a finish line. So let's see if we find a finish or goal. Goal, no, this is format, finish, find in page, end call, recommended. I think recommended is beautiful. So this will be activate endpoint. Activate start point. We have the wall. Do we need to activate no walls, so free paths? Maybe. I will just add that now, but maybe we don't need it. I'm not sure. That could be the wall, that if we click the wall twice, so we have the wall activated for our mouse cursor, we click something, we change that to sorry, I have to think quickly. We change that to a wall, and if we click it again, then we remove the wall again and make it to path. So I'm not sure if we need that necessarily, but in case we need that, we can add that. Shouldn't be too hard. So let's take that, and it looks like a rubber or something, and we call that activate path. Good. How is our app working? Perfectly. So we can click them already. Looks not very nice, but hey, it's just a demo for now, and we can then still make that beautiful, right? And I think what I will do is give that height a little bit more, like 150. Too much, like 100. Just because that weird circle around it is so big. Is there a reason why that circle is so big? Alignment, autofocus, disabled color, focus color, mouse cursor. Not yet. Okay, anyway. So if we click that, we can see already that all the buttons are working and are ready to be used at the end. Okay, next step. Now that we know we have our grid with 64 patterns, I think, right? So we can click now on the wall, for example, and the next step would be I click here, and this cell should get the property of wall. Will it be possible? I still need to track the state of the different properties, right? So if we have a 64 grid, we would have to track the state of them. So we have to decide if something is a wall or not, right? We cannot I don't know, ask the different widgets at the end what kind of thing they are. Especially if we use now later the search algorithm, I think it wouldn't make sense there. Okay, so let me think, how can we do that best? Do we want to use a state management solution, or should we just... Oh, the stream is gone, so just a second. Yeah, here it is back. It's really annoying. Okay, so should we use a state management solution for that, or do you think we can come up with a pretty basic state full widget at the end? So as you see, we have here the maze state, and I think 64 array in 2 parts could keep the state up, I guess. So there are multiple ways. in the meantime, what we can do, at the moment we just have the container. And before we come into deep with the state and everything, what we can do is maybe changing here the children. So this children is our cell actually, right? And in order to represent that somehow, I will create a widget, or let's keep it for now here inside. And we will create just a private widget. Class cell. And extends stateless widget. And this stateless cell gets an override. And here we return this. And why this is important is because, of course, we want that this cell changes somehow it look and feel whenever we click on it. So let's see, we have this cell and we will use it here. Good. So cleaned up a little bit code. That looks still the same. Perfect. Okay, the first state that we have to keep up is which kind of thing we have selected, right? It doesn't help us if we just keep it that up. And to keep it as easy as possible at the moment, I will just use the default state full widget. And here it complains already that this is not final. Okay, so we will remove that. We will change that to a stateful widget. And this stateful widget will contain our state today. So the first state is the activated cursor. So which mouse cursor is at the beginning activated. So activated, how do we call that? It will be an enumeration, right? So we will have to create an enum. Activated mouse cursor, or activated, yeah, mouse cursor, why not? And this enumeration contains wall, it contains path, it contains start point and end point. Great. So all of them start. Let's call it just start, I think easy enough, and end. All right, so let's begin with the easiest ones. I think start and end will be more tricky because we will have to validate something, because we cannot make as much starts and endpoints as we want. But we can do that with the wall and the path. So first of all, these are the 4 that we can create. And what we want to do is creating our state for activated mouse cursor, which is at the end from the type. And I see right now that I make here stuff. So these are kind of this. Don't you worry about the naming. If you have better names, please let me know. I'm just fly at the moment with that. So wall, path, start and end is maze icons, maze states, cell states. I think cell would be good. Cell states maybe. Yeah, keep it like that. So, and activate, or for, I don't want to call it a pen, but it is like in Photoshop, right? You have these pens, these different tools maybe. Yeah, activate a tool. So I think that makes a bit of sense. So activated tool will be changed whenever we press something. So activated tool is here wall. So we go to our, how did we call it? Cell states or cell tools. Cell tools. And here we can now access the different ones. And if we go to the wallet membership, we use the wall here in that case. If we use the path, we activate the path. If we go to the play arrow, we activate the start. And last but not least, we have the end tool. Okay, so a lot of text, but I think we are done with that. So whenever we click now, we should change that. And as you maybe know, when we do something like that, we have to call set state here. Because it is synchronous, we can do it all inside. So set state, we get that, bring that over inside. Actually, do we need to set the state? Are we really interested in that? I mean, we don't change the UI here, right? We just change the mouse. The question is, can we change the mouse cursor? Good question. I don't know that actually. So let's change the state here and maybe have a look, because I would be very interested if something like that happens or works. So let's Google quickly, Flutter change mouse cursor. So it is possible, but I think we cannot set some images or something. That would be so cool. Starting with the channel build, flood glass pane. In order to override pointer cursor. No, this is just the default things, I guess. Let me see if there is something in documentation. Sorry. Makes a container react to being entered by mouse pointer, showing a count of the number of entries. No, this is not what I want. Mouse cursor class. Is the natively supported by platform or supported system are enumerated in system mouse cursors. For mouse cursor definitions, a mouse cursor is a graphical image on the screen that echoes movement of a pointed device. I understand. Are assigned to a region on the screen via annotations. Later during device update, when mouse moves, finds the active cursor of each mouse device, which is in the front of the mouse region associated with the position of... Yeah, but how can I use that? So, mouse, hover and mouse cursor. Oh, look at that, file stack, my good friend. So how does it work? So we go change to pointer implementation, mouse region on hover, app container style cursor. App container is the HTML. Okay, this is just for HTML parts. Can we also gesture detector, child, provider value, okay. Show cursor hover. Call to action, show cursor on hover. That is not what I'm searching for, I guess, unfortunately. Flutter custom cursor and Flutter web cursor with hand pointer style. Okay, I'm not completely convinced here, so let's see. They already change automatically, but hey Minu, nice to see you. How are you today? Okay, but anyway, we have these different things, and I guess we set already the state. In order to check that whenever we print the wall, I want to print the activated tool at the moment. And we have some analysis issues, so bring it here. And inside of here, if I click now, looking at the run method, where it is, here, we see that we clicked on wall. All right. So now we have the possibility, or we should be able, and this is the next step that I would like to do, is to make this here paintable. And what it needs to be paintable is it needs to... What actually happens? We click one of the cells and we want to change the state of this cell somehow. So we could make that like we give here around the cell as Feeling harder to work hard? Why? What's wrong? So we have this container, and I think what we need is a gesture detector in the first place. So this has a gesture detector in some kind, and this one gets an on tap. Of course, we could also use the material one, so that will create that ripple effect and everything. But for us, we want an on tap. And now we want to have access because we need to know how does the parent behave. So we get here a final function. We can make that a bit better, I guess, but what we will receive, do we want to have... Yeah, I think to learn JavaScript is always hard if you come from a type language like Dart. And I was very happy that we solved your problem this morning, to be honest, because I was like, something is fishy here. Cannot work like that. Okay, but we have our cell, the gesture detector. If I print that, so now here we can click on it, and I will create a callback. Yeah, I can create here a callback. My question is just if I click here, now I can print whatever I like, right? This is cell number or something. And what I could do is pass into it the number of cells. So this is cell number I implement this for now. Yep. Just to see which cell number we clicked, right? So this is cell number or number, cell number, and of course final. And we have a constructor for that. We don't need the key in this place. And this is that. And here, instead of this is cell number, we can also add the cell number itself. Yeah, but I'm very happy that you solved the problem at the end. Yeah, as I said, with the synchronous and asynchronous, it was very funky. Avoid using braces in it. Yeah, sure, makes sense. Let's remove them. Good. So if I tap now one of these, we will see that they have different numbers, which is fantastic. So this should be 63. Okay, perfect. This is 0. Okay, what we can do is increase that number by 1 just to represent a correct value that, oops, sorry. So by 1 just to represent the correct value that we expect. So 1 and 64. That's perfect. And now what we want to do actually is to set the state and change something inside of that, right? So if we tap, and this tap happens with an activated tool called wall, then we want to change the color to something that we would like. So how can we do that? So we want to change the color of here. So that means inside of this box decoration, we have a color, and most of the time it's colors white. Kind of. You maybe remember the last stream that we did with the search part, if you remember that. And what I would like to do is creating the possibility to make this search AI tool with the different search patterns inside of Flutter, so that a user could click here, create his own walls, then click here, create our paths, and here he could create a starting point and an end point. And if he create all of that, then at the end, he want to just click start and it should find the perfect path inside of this grid. And the cool thing about that would be that you could make that very slow, that you see the differences between DFS, so deep first search, and BFS, broad first search. And that has a lot of benefits. The first one is that I understand the AI search terminology a little bit better. The second part will be that we can provide this maze AI for everyone, so everyone could take a look into it and, you know, have some ideas and understand these searches a little bit better. So that was my idea. Let's see how it turns out and how far we come. I think today we will just work on the grid and everything, and then the next time we will implement the AI on top of it. But let's see, who knows? And as you see, I have water today, which is very helpful, and I feel much better. Okay, so I have done all of that. As you see, I don't work with consts at the moment. I think that is fine. It's just that we have these different parts. So it's getting now a bit interesting. So we click here and we don't have the activated tool. So what we need is the activated tool, and I am not sure how we can provide that. So one idea would be that we say, okay, there is an activated tool, and we just pass that down the line. Another thing would be that we make a void callback from the cell to up, and the top part contains the information on how to change the stuff and then pass the state down again. But for now I want to try this. But on the other hand, does that make sense? Let's no. Oh yeah, ask with a condition, and yeah, sure, no problem. I think that was the thing with the question if Lottie files, how long they, or you wanted to stop at a certain frame, right? Stop at a certain frame. Let's see if we can do it right now. The last frame in animation. Lottie web, yeah, that comes close to it, I guess. Enter frame function animation. If animation current time is bigger than the total time, add in pause. And I think you could do that same thing, but within 12 to 24 milliseconds only for a condition. Okay. Yeah. So what we probably, you will have to change the container of the whole thing. So you see we have here the load animation. There you will have to set up something. And then probably you can add with this add event listener, you can then change the different frames or something like that. Like, I could imagine that this would happen. But yeah, we will have to take a deeper look into it. I will try to give you there some hints. Good. So this is a cell number, blah, blah, blah. And what I will do is I will make a callback. So let's see, we will change that a little bit. This is not the cell number anymore. We will pass down a function, or better, a void callback. Which we call onTap. I'm very creative with the names here. So this is this onTap and onTap here. Why is it not working? Can't define a const constructor. Yep, that's correct. So don't do it. And you are a little bit yellowish. Is remarked as immutable. That's true. So this is a final callback. And now up here we don't have all these parts anymore, because now we have the onTap method on this cell, and we can provide here the information that we want. So for example, we know here, if we think about this print event that we had, like this part, we know already the cell number because it's nothing else than I. And what we also can print is the active tool, which is the active tool. Activated tool is a bad name. Active tool should be easy enough. And this is wrong. Doing this, getting this passed in, and here we go. So what happens now if I click on the wall and I click now here? You can see that we always get the right tool. If I go to the starting point, we have the same thing. Okay, so the prints are working fine. So if we have now an active tool, we somehow want to change the color of this list actually. So what we can do is we could create up here a state, right? We need some kind of track on which cells are what. And in order to do so, we would create, let me think. Now we would have to create an array with our 64 information, and all of them would have some kind of information about the cell. Okay, so and what could that be? That is the cell tools or cell state. Cell state is maybe the better name for that. Not sure here, but something like that. So that would mean we have a list of cell state, and this is our different cell states, cells. And here inside we just have the information about wall and so on and so forth, and this 64 times. Okay, not perfect, but at the beginning everything is a path, right? So so, and I think what we can do is we can do that a little bit more intelligent. First of all, this is an init state. So, and here we say now, okay, the first, we bring now more or less this information, which comes up here, that we have down here with that counter, where we say we want to create 64 of them up in the init state. So that means up here, we will go 64 times between this stuff, and inside of that we will create for each cell, which is small written, for each cell one of them. So cells.add, and then we have the cell state.path. Good. So now this is cell number I, alright, so that cannot work anymore, but now we know that all the cells are here. So and here down here we create now the different cells. Can I do here an item builder kind of? No. Is there a possibility with the builder? Yes. So what does it need to create this builder? The grid delegate and the item builder. Okay, I'm not sure about the grid delegate, but let's start with the item builder. Because what I imagine now is that we don't have children anymore. We have now item builder. And this is a function which gets a context, or better an item, or not even this. Let's see. And this item builder creates more or less these cells here. Go and away. And I think inside of that we have the index. Let's see, the item builder is an indexed widget builder with the context and index. Okay, context and index. Good. So this I will be the index. And then we have the item count, which is in that case our cells.length. Cross-axis count is not necessarily anymore. Okay, this comes now with the delegate, I'm pretty sure. So we have this delegate, and what do we need here? Sliver, grid delegate, sliver grid delegate with fixed cross-axis count, with max cross-axis count. I think with fixed cross-axis count. That is super small wording, and this will be 8. Okay, so the question is, physics still work, I guess, and this needs to return that stuff. Good. Okay, so if you don't know what I did right now, so instead of using the count constructor from the grid view, we want to use the builder here. And that provides us the opportunity to use an item builder, which then gives us the index and the context. And now we create for each element inside of this cell array one of the cells. Why is that important? Well, what we want to give inside is the current state of this cell. So like the state is maybe not the best name. What is it? It's the behavior. So if you know that something in the maze is the type, maybe the cell type, I think that is a good name. So and the cell type is from cells, from the index. And then here we will get anyway our information. Oops. For not installed in stable. Do you know any fix for Flutter Dart plugins not installed in stable? I don't really understand the question. What do you mean with any fix for Flutter Dart plugins? So, and here we can now determine, we installed those plugins in Android Studio. Okay, so let's check. This guy here. Do you know any fix for Flutter Dart plugins not installed in stable? Ah, not installed in stable. So you mean you are on a beta branch from Android Studio? Flutter Dr. V, all right, let me give a second. I just want to fix that up here quickly. So, good. Does it still behave? No. Where are my cells? Cells length. Do we have to set state after that? Not sure, let's try that. No, I can't imagine that. Ah, here we go. Okay, Java FVM Flutter Doctor -v. So Flutter channel, there everything is good, I guess. Then we have the Android toolchain. Android SDK is found, Java libraries, Xcode is installed, build version is good, Chrome is installed, Android Studio 4.1, blah blah blah. Contents, Flutter plugin can be installed from, Dart plugin can be installed from. Ah yeah, okay, this is me, seems to be an error, but on the other hand, you can just ignore that if you have installed them, right? So you don't find any problems, it's just a problem that it is visible here. But if you don't do it with V, you see already that there is a tick. And I think if we use FEM Flutter Doctor, you even don't want, you wouldn't even see it. So there's everything green. And it also not saying that it is not installed, he just gives you a hint where you can install it from, I guess. And the Flutter plugin, there it is. Yeah, I think it's interesting that in IntelliJ it doesn't complain about it, right? He says which plugin version is installed. Yeah, that's true. That is true, actually. Do you know if there is an issue existent on the GitHub repository? So, in the meantime, what we can now say is that this color changes, and that depends highly on the color of the type. So what we want to do is creating here a method, get cell color. For now, that's good. So the cell color can be white, and it depends highly on the type. So this receives the type. Add required positional type. Yep. So type dot. Now we can do a switch, I think. Switch of the type. And depending on what we get here. Does it not work like that? What do I'm doing? No, because we cannot return it directly, so we have to make it a block. We make the switch statement, bring it inside, and now we are starting with it. So here we have the different cases. Case of type dot. Why does he not know what type is? That's the cell state, right? So you know that. I have to say cell state dot wall return colors dot black. Case cell state dot path return colors dot white. Hey Deepak, nice to see you. Dot start return colors dot green. And case, let's make command D, I think that's faster. And how we would end that. Thank you. I also enjoyed it a lot. So, and with that we get the different colors depending on the state. What can we change here? Missing return. Ah yeah, the default is missing, that's true. Default, whatever, here. Default will be return colors dot white. So okay, so here it still complains undefined name type y, that is here, and I think final cell state type, and here we should say that this dot type. I think we need both of them, right? So all of them are required, that nobody comes on to stupid ideas. Good, here's a semicolon missing, and finally we have our thing. So whenever we click now, we have to set the state. That's important. So here inside we have this onTap method. Ah, perfect. So you have an issue for that. Let's see. And is someone working on that? No, it's closed. Interesting. Android 2K, Android Studio. Okay, but it seems that he just don't find the Android Studio for him, right? It has nothing to do with the plugins, or comes that later? Oh no, it's really there. And they still work on that, it seems. Okay, to be clear, failing to detect the plugins will not affect Flutter development at all. The Flutter CLI tool does not touch the plugins. Only your editor does. Because of this, we plan to deprecate the plugin validation. Okay, so that means it will be most likely taken away in the future. Yeah, no. So the validation for the plugins will be taken out outside of the Flutter environment, I guess. So. And what we will do is now saying that this will be the activated tool. I know, sure, makes sense. I have installed them. As you can see, they are installed. It's just not visible in the doctor, and I think they will remove it completely so that nobody will ever find that anymore, this issue. Looks odd. Okay. So, and with that now we can tap them, and if I select a tool, so for example wall, we don't do anything because I said it before, we should set the state. Look at that. Okay, so we can color now our different things. This is white, of course, so we can change the color also. Yep. And we can make it green for starting positions and red for end positions. Yeah, that's already pretty good, I guess. Oh, we need something else. I think we need also an erase all functionality, right? That we make it plain white again. Because now I would have to change that all the time to anything, and yeah. Also what we have to do is, if the active tool, so we have multiple things to do. Okay, you know what I should do? We will create a file, because I will forget that until the next time when we ever do that again. So let's go here and create any file. I need a file. Here we go. To do. Or better, we have here to do, but I think there is, a plugin for that. So let's see, marketplace, to-dos, to-do for me. Is this still actual? Not really. To-do G, January 2019. Tasks, 2017, it's even older. And it's pretty ugly. Do we have, yeah, let's try this one. Installed, okay. So to do for me. Fantastic tool. So many question marks. Okay, let's remove that again and find another solution. No, remove that one, disable and uninstall. Yeah, you're right. Well, we can do it directly there where it's needed, right? So here, so to do. What we have to do, we want to, first of all, we have to identify start and end position. Can only exist once. Can only exist once in the maze. To do, or better, we can also create that up here where we want to have that. That would be in this row. So where's the row? Here. So the next to do would be button for clear all. Clear whole maze. Yes, now we have the to-dos. You're right. So, all right. So do we have anything else to do that I don't see right now? Maybe that stuff. I don't know. Can we make that a little bit smaller? It looks so ugly, but no, that's fine. Icon button, icon button, icon button. I think we could move that whole thing as an own widget, I guess. Would that solve a lot? No, I don't think so. It's just 30 lines. That's all right. As long as we don't cut the 200 lines, I'm happy. Okay, so we have the different types. We have the wall, we have the path. We can change all of that. Let's see. Let's start with the... I think the clear all should be the easiest one. So what we will do is, inside of this row, we want to have children, and what I want to do is give that a lot of space, so a spacer or something in between. Let's see, yep, spacer. I think we can even make that a const. And then after that, we want to have an icon button. And I think what we can do is just copy that one over. And instead of an here, we want to have clear. Clear all. Let's just keep it with clear. And now inside of here, what we want to do is reset all. That would mean we go through all these different cells that we have and clear that. So for each element equals cell state dot path. This is a side effect. We don't do that like this. What's a good solution for that? We want to change. We could map all of them, but that doesn't seem right. Yeah, I think we have to iterate. How can we easily do that? We want to clear the whole maze. So one option would be that we just recreate all of them. But actually what we want to do is changing the value of all the cells to something. So what do we have? First is empty, single, last clear as map, cast, fill range, get range, index of, insert, insert all, remove, replace, where. No, not retain, replace. Oh. What was it? I thought I saw something with replace, but replace, retain where? Set all. Iterable of cell state. What does set all does? Overrides objects of this with the object of iterable, starting at position index in the list. We have a list A, B, C, list set all 1, B, C, list join. So we give the index, which will be 0, and then we just enter the value that we want to have. But it's set, so that means we replace it with another list, right? That is not really what we want. Okay. The easiest way is probably to just write a for loop again. So we have var I equals 0, I is smaller than cells dot length, and I plus plus. And inside of here, what we will do is going through each cell's I and replace it with cell state path. So I guess that's that. We have a set state surrounding that, and I think with that we have it already solved. So if I click that, yeah. So we can recreate, we delete, and we can start all over again. The best thing is that we can make it as big as we want, and the best we can even use it as a drawing pad, I guess. So let's see if I can do that. So we have here, giving it a big fat smiley. Look at that. Isn't he friendly? Make some here. He's weird. Okay, anyway. Good. But with that we have the different states. That's already quite something worth, I guess. Okay. With that we can clear the whole maze. We can get rid of that. So we can have a starting point and an ending point. The problem is at the moment we have multiple of them, and I think we should not be able to do that. Yeah, awesome. The good thing is if you write OE in German, you mean Ö, which kills most of the foreign languages speakers because it's very hard to pronounce. Okay, so we have green and red, and we should be only able to have it once. So what we have to do is going to the active tool where we have the start point and the end point, and say that we set state. Just a second, we don't have to do it twice. What we have to do now is valid or remove. And what do we do with the old starting point? Do we do it as a path again? Or I think that's the easiest way. So we replace the old starting point, replace old starting point with new one. Is that understandable? Replace old starting point. No. Clean old starting point. Kind of this. So it's just that we understand what we want to do. Create a method for that. Chuck, chuck, chuck. Clean old starting point. So the thing is, we have now our cells, right? And inside of the cells somewhere we have already the place where we start. So the easiest way to find that is probably by first we get the first one, filter, find, is it? No. What is the name in Dart? Remove, replace, shuffle, sort, sublist, anywhere. I think where would be easiest. Where. So element equals to cell state start. So if this is the cell point start, now we get one cell, right? So that should be the first, so we only get one. I think we can use first where or something. Yeah, fantastic. So we don't have to do this. And now we get the old starting point. Yep. And what we want to do is give this a var. And the old starting point should be now again cell state.path. Will this work? I highly doubt it. Singing show. What is a singing show? First where? Could I? If I map that, I get a new list with the first where. I need the index of that. First where index. And what I want to see if old starting point give me the correct index. So let's see in the terminal and let's click on one of them. So I click here and no, not in the terminal, in the run. So and the old starting point is 2. That makes no sense, right? So let's see, I click, click, click. And if I create a new, this is the endpoint, starting point. Oh, now we crash, no element. Because I'm a little bit stupid, of course. This is the wrong place to do it. So this comes somewhere else. This is only the icon button that removes all that stuff. What we search is actually the cell itself. So to do start, yep. So here we want to do it. Because now if we click somewhere, it tries to find it, but if it can't find one, then it crashes. So we shouldn't do that, or what we could do is just make a question mark here. And now it shouldn't fail anymore. No element. Okay, so first element seems, or first where seems to fail with an error. If I or else we have to do. Okay. So sorry, I'm too fast. So if we go here, we will see that we have one test, and the next parameter that we can give is or else. That means if it cannot find anything, then he does something else. So and because we didn't set that, he will fail here. So this is the first part. And now we have to pass in here, I guess, the or else, which is also a function where we can set some stuff inside. That's correct. So or else we don't get anything. So the old starting point, we return null. No, not a good idea. We shouldn't do that. If we don't find anything, don't do anything. The return type isn't a cell state as required by the, okay. Return cell state dot start. No, path. Not what he wants. The return type set cell state isn't a cell state as required by the closure. Ah, because of the fat arrow. Good. No, here's the go. Cell state path. Yeah, of course, we just get the old one. But what we want to have is the cell state start, and then from this first where we actually want the index. And I think if I remove this or else and just return null, let's see if this works. Good. So I click here. 2, 2, 2, 2. No, that makes no sense. So it's always the same thing. Okay. Doesn't work like that. Cells don't find index of cell state element index of what we can do is cell state dot start. So, and now we get an index or something, right? -1. So if old starting point equal to -1 or not equal to 1, then we do the following. Is that correct? So, no, it's larger than 1. Larger than 0. So, of course I know the language C, but I have never written it. Actually, I've written C++ and I worked a little bit with C, or no, different. I worked a little bit with C++ and more with C#. And yeah, I know a little bit of the C language, but I just have read a little bit about it, especially about the bitwise calculations and stuff. It was a bit crazy. So having that, 49. Ah, finally. Huh? Okay, because we don't delete the old one. Okay, but what that means is if this is larger, then we want to go to cells with the old starting point and replace that with the cell state of path. Cool. So if I do that, we now have a jumping starting point. Remove. So no more different stuff. Cool. Now the only thing that we have to do is do the same thing for the end state, right? Because we have the same problem. And what I see right now, why is it removing if I click now something else? Of course, that is not allowed for everything. So what we have to do here is to check if the active tool is equal to cell state dot start or same thing for end. And if this happens, we execute this and we pass down if it is the start or the end. So I want to pass down the type. No, the active tool I want to pass down. Add required positional argument that fits. And now we come with that and this here. Why is that important? Because this part here. At the moment we pass in the start, but what we actually want is depending on the active tool. So index of active tool, and then do whatever you want. So let's see if we can do that, if this works. So we start with the end, that looks good. We do it with the start, looks good. But if I do it with the wall, looks good. I can replace everything, looks good. All right. So we can create our own walls and have that done. Okay, with that we have our grid. We have information about which state the grid is. The only problem that I maybe see is that at the moment we have one large list here. We don't have different rows. So for the calculation later, for the search analysis, it will be a bit tricky. But actually that should work for now. Another cool feature that we could implement maybe is to announce how large the grid should be, because now we are fixed at 64 levels, right? But actually we could make that as large as we want, right? So if someone wants to have 100 and 100, then why not, right? So if we increase that number by 182, I think we should have no downside of that. Just a little bit spacing problem. And I think what we would do then is increase that number. Interesting, how would we do that? Because I want always a 2D checkboard more or less, so it should be always the same size of height and width. Let me think. Anyway, it's not too important at the moment. Let's stick with the easiest solution and then get complicated in the future if it is even interesting for people. So if we create now that path, I don't know, we close that one, and if we would close this one, now we shouldn't find a path. So there we want to have the different possibilities here. Where can we change that again? Now I did something and forgot to, yeah, just hot reload. All right, so my idea would be that we put underneath of it where we can select the different search methodologies, like DFS, BFS, A-star, greedy best first search, and so on and so forth. And then we try to implement them step by step. Yeah. So how can we do that? Where to start? We have now that we have the start position, we have the end position, and we can create our maze. We get information about this maze. Oops. And now we have that in a very large list. Okay, the rest is actually just coding, right? So we can have the UI done. So we would have some kind of helper here. So let's call that for now search. Or yeah, actually that would be our controllers, I guess. So what we can do is create a package called controllers. And what I want to have is we need some kind of selection. So what is the easiest point of selection that we can do? Some kind of Dropbox, I think, would be the easiest way. And inside of the views, we could create also a package called widgets. And here inside, I want to bring the cell widget. So get that inside here, cell.dart, put here, import whatever we need. Get the cell state. The question is if we should have that only here. Yeah, I think that's okay. Let's import that for now. On the other hand, with that, I get probably, that's okay for now. All right, so and import the cell, that's good. and now we should be able to see it again. Any problems? No. Fantastic. Okay, we have walls, we have a starting point, we have an ending point. Now we want to have the controllers ready, and we need the home view for that. And here we have the expanded part and the sized box. The problem is that a column is always infinity height, right? So with the expanded, I have the problem that we always use the same path. What we can do is getting an expanded below that, where we have a child. In our case, it's just a row. Hopefully that works, but it should. And inside of this expanded, we can set the flex elements. And this one have at least, I don't know, 8 to 9, I guess. 8 to 1 would be the flex that I would like to see. So you see down here, it's getting cut off now. And because we say we are not scrollable in that case, it's not going anywhere. But that's a good question. What would happen if we allow to scroll here? If we remove this here, we are even able to scroll, and I think, can we still click it? Yeah. We just have to make sure that we don't push too much, but that's fine, I think. So that's fair enough. And now in this row, what I want to have is children. Drop down, is there something like that? Drop down button, drop down menu item. Okay, let's try that with different items. So what does the drop down button actually want? Creates a drop down button. The items must have distinct values. If value is null, then must be equal to one of the drop down menu item values. Okay, so we have different items. These items are drop down menu items of type T. Okay, so that means we have here a list of drop down items, menu items, okay? And they have a child with text probably, so let's try that. So give the first one, let's start with the deep first search. And now we have to pass also a value inside, and the value should be what exactly? A text maybe? Deep first search. And maybe we can give the value DFS just because it's easier. So how does it look? Okay, we have now a drop down, that's good, which is at the moment inactive. Do we need more to our drop down buttons? Clean it up. Drop down items, here we go. On tab, on change, okay, we can change that. And what is the current value? DFS. Yeah, so now we have that selected. So if we have multiple drop down items or menu items like so, then we have like BFS, breadth, something like that, first search. I know maybe I have some writing problems here, so be gentle with me. I have to search for that. So BFS, breadth, first search. Exactly. Okay, it's written correctly, I think. Cool. And then we would have the other two, which is the A star search, right? A star, and the greedy best first search. GBF, something like that. So cool, we add that. Okay, we have the drop down button, we have the values. The current value is the DFS, and can I select now? No, I cannot. So what is the reason for that? Why is it deactivated? Because probably the drop down button, the value is hard coded, and what we need to do is on changed, change the value of that here, I guess. So this is the create a value for that. DFS, no, doesn't do it. So probably here we need the state that it currently has. So the drop down value, that is a string, would be DFS. And down here we would have to pass the drop down value inside. Looks like the stream is down again. Can I, and that is already activated. Okay. So, and then on change, whenever the value changes, we want to say drop down value, and here we get a value, I guess, is the value. Fair enough. This is a string. And now we should be able to switch here. Perfect. Only problem, it does not update, and of course it does not update because set state is missing. Yep. Good. Deep first search, breadth first search, A star, perfect. So that works. And last but not least, we want to have some kind of padding. Yep. Still not good enough. Get the padding rid of and add the padding here. Yeah, could be a bit more, I think, on the left and the right, but let's see how we can do that. That is, keep that and say only for left, and there we give 16, and right 16. And what do we have else? Top maybe 8, and bottom maybe 8. Yep. Interesting, this part is still not moving, so I increase that and double it, maybe now. Yeah. Okay. Now we need a start button, right? Something like, hey, we want to start our search here. And if I see that correctly, what we could do is giving here symmetric. And here we have horizontally, which is 32, and vertically, which is 8. I think it's a bit shorter. Okay, so this is that. Now we have this. At the last, no, this is the drop down, drop down, drop down, drop down. Down here we need a spacer again. Const. And after that we have a raised button. Button. This one has an on pressed. Print. Start the search algo. Here needs a space. Fantastic. Oh, raised button is deprecated. Ooh, what happened? Yeah, elevated button is of course the correct one. So here we go. Still beautiful. And we need a child, which is a text. And yeah, start search, kind of. Good. And I think with that, we have finished our UI for now. As you see, we can now select. We have also here, if we click that, we have also access to which algorithm we start. So we can see that this is the drop-down value. And I think we should change the name of that to search or selected search algorithm. Selected search algo. So, okay. So that means if I select breadth first search, we see BFS, we see greedy best search, GBS, A star is just an A star, and DFS is DFS. Fantastic. So much to the UI, I guess. From now on, we just want to execute everything else in the controllers. And that means we pass in whatever we need, like the cells that we have, the current selected search algorithm. And do we need anything else? I think that should do the trick already, right? I think that should be it. So 2 things that we can do easily, quick wins, I think. That would be first to change the debug flag, because I know a lot of people don't like that. So where is it? Is it not anymore flag? I thought debug. Oh no, where's it gone? Ah, no, it's not in the theme data, of course. It's here, debug. Show checked banner false. So, looks already pretty awesome. And the other thing is, we called it text, but actually this is our search algorithm. Yeah, maze. Oh, maze optimal path. kind of don't know. If you have a better name for our application, please let me know. You know, the biggest challenge in software engineering is always finding good names. Okay, now we are coming actually to the difficult stuff, because until now everything was super easy and really, really nice. But from now on it's getting difficult, I guess. So we want to actually search for the correct possibility. In order to use our controllers, I will use getIt because I'm a super lazy person and this works for me the best without using any other state management stuff surrounding it. So let's search for the pub.dev getIt. And also here I created already a video down on YouTube, so check out that video if you don't know how getIt works. And add it here. We pub-get. Maze search AI, here it is, fantastic. And now with that we will be easily possible to use one of our controllers. So now we have multiple possibilities. We could now just search, we have a search controller who takes care of all 4 searches. And I think that doesn't sound too bad. Do we have any problems with that for now? I would just start with one of them, which is the breadth first search, the deep first search controller. And then we can just still change that if we don't like it. It's maybe a bit too long, right? Especially if we can shorten it with DFS. So, and now here, class DFS controller. We have a class, and this class is allowed to calculate stuff for us. So the DFS controller, I think we need also some kind of utils that we can reuse later. So I will create utils.dart. Like for example, we need a class node, which then contains stuff like the node itself, the parent, and what was the last thing? The node contains the parent, the state, and I guess the parent, the state, and the action. Let me see, this is now the important stuff if I've understood the search terminology correctly. So let's see, we have the state. I just take a string, or yeah, a string at the moment. So string state, the string action, and string, how do you call it, last thing, string action, and a parent. So not sure if this is correct, but what we will do is going to PyCharm now, looking in the maze, and let's have a look. So we have actually a node, and it has a state, it has a parent, it has an action. So with that we are already pretty fine. So we just don't know yet, or I don't know yet, what are the different things. So what is our state? Our state could be the wall, the starting point, the end point, right? At least I think that are the states. The sad thing about the whole part in Python is that we don't know what types they are. So we have always to guess, I think, or we have to search where we used it. So how did they do that actually? Contents count A, 1, okay, must have exactly 1 goal, split lines. Did they put that in one big self walls? Walls, append row. No, they created also a 2-dimensional array. Maybe we should do the same thing. Candidates, okay. Okay, but I will be quickly on the bathroom, or in the bathroom, and yeah, we will go further there. So just give me 1 minute and enjoy the good music in the meantime. Be right back. overtake. And here we are again. So, I hope you didn't wait it too long. I'm very sorry. Grabbed myself also another cup of water. I think we will do another half an hour or something, and then we will be finished for today. And then in the next episode we will finish our thing. So I really hope that we at least got the deep first search done. Okay, but let's have a look. So they provide already in this maze pie, in the CS50 course that I did, and you will find that on edX, that is for free. So if you go to edX.org, you can see that this AI course that I'm currently doing, this Introduction to Artificial Intelligence with Python, is completely for free. And I try to learn as much as I can and want to transfer my knowledge into Dart and Flutter. And that is the reason why I'm currently working on that. So highly recommend that. As I said, it's free. You can get a verified certificate. And I'm not sponsoring that. It's just that I'm doing it. So that I'm taking the certificate and the class. Okay, cool. So we have the action, we have the parent, and we have the state. So what does that mean? So the action, what would be, the action would be something like go to the left, go to the right, and so on and so forth. String parent. So the parent is where we come from. That would be the neighbors and so on. So we need to know which node would be H cell, I think. So maybe I did a mistake when I called that just a cell here in the cell state. Hey, Horexino? I really need to learn new names. But my idea would be maybe that we change the cell state here to actually the state that we received there. So that we have a node instead. Because the state, action, and parent, on the other hand, okay, first step by step, let's think like that. So the stack frontier we can also overtake, the queue frontier we can overtake. Frontier is empty array. We have add possibilities, so we add some nodes to the frontier. Contain state, yep, exactly what we learned the last time. And here comes the class maze, and there is what I'm most interested in. So he opens the file that looks like this at the moment, and if it contents count A, so contents count A. So that means he reads really everything and then checks inside of that. If there is an A somewhere, then this is getting a number 1. Else it gets number, no, it throws exceptions if there is more than this, which makes sense. So I think we can do nearly the same for our DFS controller. That would mean if we, how do they do that? From my understanding, so the maze is just a class, and where is it getting executed? There must be some kind of main or something. Start, stack frontier, this is how the calculation is done later. Okay, it's just down here where we have a sys argument inside. Just calling this, and then this happens. The height is the length of the contents. Yeah, okay, so he gets automatically a double 2-dimensional array here. Okay, so we have it there a little bit easier because we have already our pressed button, elevated button, and we want to execute now something here. So like, yeah, start DFS. And I think that looks wrong, start DFS. And inside of here we want to all that stuff. And do we return something? We could return, like if we found a perfect social solution or something. So we would return our result, right? So our result is an enum result or results. And what we have is found path. We have no optimal path. And I think the last thing that we have is found path, no optimal path. And the last thing is there any other option? Error. So, and this should be like that, correct? And we return results. And this could be a search result, of course, search result. Good. Found path, exactly, because it does not have to be an optimal path. The same thing here, no path found. Good, start DFS. So we received the cells, which is a list of all the different cell states, right? So, which we have to import, of course. And what is the second thing that we receive? And this makes no sense here with the DFS controller actually, because what we receive here is the algorithm that we should use. So algorithm or search algorithm. And this is a string at the moment. On the other hand, this shouldn't be a string, I see right now, because these are finite, right? So we have DFS, BFS, and so on. So we should also create for them an enum. Algo or search algos. That would be DFS, BFS, A star. I don't know if, no, just make A and greedy best first search. GBS. Yeah. Okay. So that makes it a bit easier because now I can take this and say .dfs. This guy is now a search algo and search algos. Yeah. Good. And down here where it complains now everywhere, we have to change, of course, some things because these values have to be now all changed. BFS, GBS, and A. Good. More problems, of course. This guy receives now a search algo. And that should do the trick. So if we update now, we will see up here that we can select now our algorithm still. Does it work? Where's our run? Ah, yeah. And we can pass that inside. So we get our information and that should do the trick. So here inside, we want to use that by... So the naming is of course now weird because this is just a search controller. And it has nothing to do anymore with the DFS. Controller.dart. And this one is start DFS. Okay. That would mean that our parent identifies which search algorithm is necessary. Could be useful. Let me think. Just quickly. So we could have like start DFS, BFS, and so on. I think that makes sense. So we would have BFS, DFS, BFS. What is that? GBS, and last but not least A. Don't use abbreviations is one of the standards, but we do it. So, and as you see, this is actually not really a class. Better would be that this is an abstract class. In our case, because then we can use it as an implementation somewhere. And I think we don't need that then. Get rid of that, and also that. So we know that they all behave the same, but we would have like search controller. And now we would create an implementation for that. How do we do that? I think we create an own class for that. Search controller impl. Class search controller implementation, which implements the search controller. So that means we have the 4 overrides, we get all that stuff. Good. And what you can see is now we have unimplemented errors already. So that's pretty cool. We can use this search controller in our home view. Okay, we have now 2 options. I can just initialize it and use it here all the time. I recreate the whole class, or I will use getIt. To make it as easy as possible and minimal as possible, I will just create it here now. But actually what I want to do for the future is to take this dependency out of the home view and create it with getIt, I guess. So what I will do is creating a search controller. Up. And we import the whole thing. Did that work? No, it's getting red. Why? Because it's abstract. Sure. So we want to have the search controller implementation that we recreate. And now here we want to use the search controller and execute start. So we can now make a switch about the selected search algos. And now we have the different cases, which we probably, yeah, cool. I can just do it this way. And now we can say search controller dot start DFS. We give inside that, and I think we don't even have to pass down the search algorithm anymore. So we go here and we can say now that these 3 lines, unlucky, let's go with that, and these 4 lines are actually obsolete, so get rid of that. Good. Now the implementation campaigns, of course, so we have to get rid of this, get rid of this. I show you the full beauty of development, right? Just deleting stuff and so good. The benefit now here is if we execute something that is not already implemented, we get some errors here. BFS can be gone, can be no, makes no sense. Get this, replace that with A, start A, and last but not least, the good old GBS. All right, so the good thing is now whatever we select here, something like a star, and we star search, we get already the error, unimplemented error. So everyone is aware that this stuff is not working yet. But if we work with the deep first search and I click on it, we will get the same problem at the moment. But what we can do is now replacing that stuff. So this is A, this is BFS, this is DFS, but here we have the DFS. This is the one that we want to work first on. And the good thing is with the to-dos now in place, we know exactly where we want to work on. So we have all the different things that we have to still implement. Okay, so back to our utils. We have the node that we have to create. And now I have to understand how everything works. So self solution print neighbors. I think we had these utils here. Exactly. So what we can see inside of the utils, we have this stack frontier and the queue frontier. And I think we can just copy these over because we need them in nearly the same way. So that means here we have the class, and yes, it looks a bit weird. So maybe I can do that optimized, just make that a bit smaller, get rid of that. So, and now I just translate that more or less. So we have a class stack frontier, which has a constructor that is stack frontier itself. And the idea is whenever we have this stack frontier, we can just create here a frontier. And this is a list of is it a list of strings? No, cell states actually. And this means that this state here is a cell state. The action that changes it. I'm still not happy with the idea here. We have to still understand what the action does, but it's going into the right direction. So then we have the function of add. The add function will return nothing. Self we don't need, but we get a node. And this node adds it to the frontier. Dot add to the frontier, which means we get the node here inside. This node is a node. And this means this is a list of nodes. Okay, So next step, contain state. So that gives us back as a boolean, I guess, right? Contain state, is it necessary somewhere? So frontier, if not, frontier contains state and not. Okay. So I guess this returns a boolean, which gets the current state. And it checks now that the frontier state is unequal or is equal to the state. So return node, which node? Any node state. Yeah, it seems boolean, but which node does he access here? Do we see that? Ah, for node in self front. Aha, okay. Reading of Python is not easy, I tell you. Okay, so we return here node for each node. We don't. Ah, okay, we just search for, all right, okay, cool. So what we can do is say frontier.where, and now let's assume that we have node, no element.state equals the same as the state. So frontier first where, because it can only exist once, right? And that should do the trick. So this element is actually a node. And now we just have to make that a boolean, right? So first where, can we, is there something like first is empty, is last, first where, and then like giving a boolean instead? Like first, no, that's just giving us the node itself. So how can I make that a boolean? That is now a node. Return node unequal null. Not happy with that, but kind of this, I think. Okay, then we have empty that returns also just a boolean, and it checks if this thing is empty. So we receive nothing, and we say return, yeah, frontier.isEmpty. And I think this frontier should be private somehow. Else we wouldn't have this empty method, I guess. Good. Okay, the next is remove. We return the node itself. So that is important. So we return here a node, remove, up, and if self.empty, okay, if, this is empty, then we raise an exception. We can do the same thing, I think. Throw exception. Empty frontier, okay. And else, if it is not empty, then we say that the self from the frontier, we reduce, we pop, right? Node, yeah, we have to specify a variable node, or better we do it like this, getting the frontier, and now we want to get the last element and we want to remove it, but remove last, and I think we get then already that. So we receive the last node, I think, and it's getting popped from the element, so we don't have to do these two lines, I guess. So let's read it quickly that I don't do any mistake here. Pops and returns the last objects in the list. Yeah, the list must not be empty. Makes sense. Cool. Okay, so we get our node, and actually we can directly return it. So let's return it directly. No need for a node. Okay, this is our stack frontier for now. Let's try the same thing for the class. This is a queue frontier, which is extends the stack frontier. Okay, so still happy. And the only thing that we override is the remove function. Good. So we call not this here. What we will do is we return a node. That's good. And now we do exactly the same again like before. We say if we are empty, so self.empty, this.empty. So weird to translate another programming language. So throw exception empty frontier, else we do something else. Before pop needs to check if it's already empty or not. Yep, we do that. Look at that. We have this if empty. So because we call this empty method where we check if it is empty, so it cannot be empty down here. It could be just null at the moment. That would be the only problem that we maybe create. But as you can see, actually here needs to be created a list, else it is broken, I think, because we do that here. So we always have a list actually, and here we just remove the last one if we don't throw this exception beforehand. So, and in this else part, we have a node and we do exactly the same thing, I think, but we take always the first one. So let's see if this is possible that easy like before. We say we have the frontier and we want now remove first. So this one, and then we just say 0. Remove at returns the removed object at position. Okay, fantastic. So also this is possible and we can just return it. Okay. Not too bad. Okay, so at least the util is already translated. Fantastic. So with that, our DFS and BFS shouldn't be anything in the way, I guess. So now the only question is how it is implemented actually. So the neighbors, where do we get an action from? That is the first thing. I want to understand what is an action for here. I think we didn't implement it the last time. So I have to identify how that works. So we have the walls, this is that. We have a definition of print solution. So this is just what happens in the console at the end. Def neighbors. So what does that do? We have row and columns equal state. Candidates is up, down, left, and right. So I think these are the 3 or 4 different things that we can do. Result and for action RC in candidates. If 0 is smaller than R, self height, and 0 is C, self width, and not self walls, result append. Okay. So solve finds a solution to maze if one exists. Keep track of number of state explored. Okay. This is the stuff that we did then at the end. So here we created a stack frontier, made this while true, and so on. Output image is not really important for us. So the maze is created, printed, solved, and then we have an output. Okay, so it needs to be inside of this maze somehow. On the other hand, where did we get the action from that we could do? So here we talk about candidates. Welcome back, Minu. These candidates. Roll. How long we came? Well, the maze is ready to use, so we can see we can create different walls here if we want to. Then we can create paths. We can create a starting point, an end point. And the next goal, and I think we will not finish that off today because I have to start now cooking sooner or later, is to select here one of the searches that we can use. and then click on Start Search. That is the idea. And at the moment, I try to translate the Python things that we have into our own solution so that we can now use that. And as you see, we already created all of that. So whatever happens, if we click now, for example, I select now greedy best first search, throws an error at the moment. If we use the same thing for deep first search, we throw an error at the moment. So this is exactly where we are at the moment. Didn't miss too much, I guess. So DFS, where are we? So still I need PyCharm to understand. Exactly. So we have this solve, and start node is self-start. Self-start. Okay, so the whole class creates a state, which is start. Hey, Adik Tuts, nice to see you. Thank you for the follow. So what we want to do is taking our contents and search for the start, the end, row append false. So self start is this one, self go. So the action is so what my problem is at the moment is, and I think that is the problem or the reason why I wanted to do this challenge here, is to identify what are my actions, what are my my possible results, and so on and so forth, so that I understand how these are actually work. So we have kind of walls here, right? And actually I thought this should be this part here, but now we have row append. So he creates his own rows for each. He goes through the different contents, right? And then he edits that not false, false, false. What? The question is, what means this false in that case? So we get different rows where we have false, 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 true, false, false, and so on. Then index error is also false. Then self walls append row. Ah, okay, so true means wall, actually, for him. So true is a wall, while false is always not a wall. And then self solution is none. So the solution seems to be somewhere important. Where we can get this. So we have the self wall, self hide, self solution, but this is all on the maze, I guess. Okay, next part would be, we get here our state, and where is our solution? At start we have the explored, if frontier empty, okay. Node frontier remove. Self start, and the start is actually this point. Oh, sorry, is it too loud, Minu? I guess we can place more than one start and end point. No, we cannot. So I was very, very angry and vicious with that we cannot do that at the moment. And I think it would be very difficult for a path finding search algorithm to find between multiple paths the best search. I think it would be possible, but I don't know how. Okay. So I and j, that means this is actually one destination, right? So this point here would be 4 and 0, or 0 and 4. The row is I, so yeah, so 0 and 4. And is this now an action? The node is self start, so that means the start is the point in the direction. What this could be also just the integer, right, where we are. Like, I don't know if for our solution that could be just 4, because we don't have rows in our case. We only have a lot of these fields in a numberless way. Okay. That would mean that the state is just a number. But how would we find the above, on the sides, and below us? I think then I have to calculate a lot of stuff. So maybe it's easier to just translate the different cells that we have into this grid system at the end. I slowly start to hate our idea that we created at the beginning just cells in this area. So maybe it would be better that we have created it directly correct. So that means that we don't have a list of cell states, but rather a list of cell states. So that would mean that we have here inside another list. No, so like this, and then have the stuff inside like we did at the very first beginning of our adventure here. And then we have this stuff. Of course, a lot of stuff will break now, but I think that would be the right way to do it. Yes, thanks to you, I started to have always water at my side. So I will remove that for now. And what I will do is, because we run out of time for today, I'm very sad for that, but we will do that, is we have to improve this to have a list of cell states. A Dart web HTML CSS series. To be honest, I could do that, but the question is it still supported? I mean, one of the most important packages there was the Dart Angular part, and I think this is not really supported anymore. Yeah, 3 months ago. Could be still active. No, not really. I think, is there anything else where you have Dart and HTML together? Is that something that is used from the community? Do you think it would be complicated? Because actually it is nothing else than what they did, right? So they have also this this range here with the walls and so on. So they created they read it from the height and the width. And contents needs to be this 2-dimensional array with a list of lists, right? The range of height and width. I really have to figure out. Maybe we can also, because this is at the moment just one variable that we have, right? Where we say, okay, we have so many cells. But in order to get this 2D grid, we would have to somehow split that off. So that means that we have, like, we know exactly, or we can even give our users the opportunity to say, okay, we have a height of 6 and a width of 100 or something. And I think that wouldn't be too complicated. That would solve our problem at the end. Because on the other hand, if we use that, if we say we have just one point, right, like here, and we want to find the neighbors, we can just say -1 would be this one. Let's make, let's remove these. Let's remove all. Okay. So let's say we have this position at the moment, and now I want to find out this position and this position. So these are my actions, right? I can go left and I can go right. To up would be exactly -8, right? And down would be +8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, perfect. Okay, let's do it this way. I think that's better. Then let's do it this way. I think that makes more sense. So that means start DFS, exactly. So that would mean that if we want to find the different possibilities that we have, Dartlang web dev, Dartlang web dev. Let's see. I just write down what I discovered right now. So in order to navigate inside of our grid, up -8, down +8, left -1, right +1. So it's just a reminder. To do reminder. Good. All right, so web dev, what is wrong with that? So yes, pub dev, web serve, debug. What's yeah, and this is supported still? Is it still something that has a big popularity? Last hour? Oh yeah. It's actually something that is getting developed. That's something. Command line tool for developing and deploying web applications with Dart. Yeah, that sounds very cool, to be honest. Probably a side project from the whole Flutter web stuff. Published in October 2020. Interesting. Thank you, Minu. That Angular diss was named unidentified. Okay. So let's see, we have this implementation. I would like to start with that at least. How many time do I have still? 3 minutes. Okay, in the last 3 minutes, what can we do? Let's figure that out. I think we have that solve part and I can just try to translate that stuff over. And neighbors. So where can we find our start point? That would be very interesting. Let's start maybe with that. So find to do, find starting and ending. So we have our cells and the first where, I guess. And now we can say element is equal to cell state dot start, and we want to have the index of that. And first where can have this or else, right? So what we want is not first where, we want to have index of. And then we want to give just the cell state inside. And the other one would be end. And we can say that this is a number, maybe an integer probably, and this is the start. Int end would be this one. Why can I not get the index? Index isn't defined for type int. Okay, so it's number probably. Nope. Num. No, still not. The getter index isn't defined. I index off. I don't need the index. All right, so start and end. And with that, we have already the positions where we start and end the search. Is that correct? Let's see. So print start and print end. And now let's execute that. Print end, semicolon. So, and if I go here and I would now give that an endpoint and click on that, there's still the unimplemented mission. So let's try it again. Look at that, 27 and 15, 27 and 15. I could now calculate if this is correct, but I'm super lazy, so I select these and click once more. 0 and 1, that is perfect. Okay, so we get the info. Okay, that's good. So row and column. So next step would be to identify all the walls or all the not walls, right? So we still need like a list of numbers, which are all walls. All walls is also a very nice name. And the other thing is all paths. I don't know if we need these all paths and all walls, but I think he did the same thing right for his maze. So if we see, he created his walls and we have the start, the goal. I see right now that he only took the walls. And no matter, but we need all of them. So the question is now, can we find all of them? So if we say something like all walls, we can sell cells, index, where? I need a list of index. This is quite hard, I think. Cells dot where? With where I would remove all of them. What I could do is map all of them. That is maybe a good idea. So we get the elements and say, okay, I get the index of them. And then I say to list. That could work actually. So, and then we map them, but only we take this. No, doesn't work. Okay, anyhow, that's it for today. I think we will not come further, but this is the idea, how far we have come. So the next step will be to find out where our find all indexes of walls and of paths. Do you have course outline for your mentorship program? Not yet, but it sounds very interesting to create one. I think that would be very important. At the moment, my mentorship program was more the idea that you have something specific in mind and we work together on a specific path that you want to achieve. And you will get from me like regular basis talks about how you can improve your code bases, how we can talk about improving that, bringing your project up and running. And if you don't have ideas for project, that we together find some project ideas that you can solve and also finish up, just to bring your portfolio in a way and in a shape that you can start, for example, at different companies. Also what I can give is advices on how you start in programming, and I did that also for Mahtab in the time, where we just learned and improved all her skills on a regular basis. Additionally, it will be with a AMA session, like where we try to discuss as a team, if we have multiple mentees, for example, that we can find the solutions there together. Important to know is that this will be not like I will give you some solutions for a problem. It will be more like how you can find the solutions yourself. So that was the idea of the mentorship program. But to create a course outline is a really good idea. Maybe I can do that and we'll publish that in the next couple of weeks. Thank you for the idea. Good. All right. So thank you, everyone. Now I get something to eat and we will see us hopefully in the next couple of days. And until then, thank you so much for watching and yeah, see you at the next time.